Moving right along to story number 2. Everything today, as you guys I know, is racist. And I could make the old observation that when everything is racist, nothing is racist, but I don't really think that that has as much power anymore, because if you say that to the left, they'll disagree. Obviously, they'll say, no, everything being racist doesn't mean that nothing is racist. It just means that everything is racist. Everything is racist means everything is racist. Okay? We're finally waking up to that fact. We're woke. Thank the goddess, or thank nature, or thank the universe, or whatever they think. So it's not surprising to find out that now sleep, yes, sleep, is actually racist as well. From Teen Vogue, headline, Black Power Naps is addressing systematic racism in sleep. This is actually what the piece says, okay? Quote, Fanny Sosa and Navid Acosta were tired, but it wasn't just any old fatigue. Yes, they experienced a lack of sleep, but they were specifically experiencing a generational fatigue familiar to Black people and people of color. From this sleeplessness, the two created Black Power Naps. It came from understanding that the American dream is a sleepless one. We inherited this exhaustion, Sosa said. Okay, so sleeplessness is racist. And it is systematically being used to oppress Blacks. Because guess what? This sleeplessness, this institutional, generational sleeplessness comes from, I don't even have to use the old, you are a winner, sir. You already know that it's because of quote-unquote slavery, racism, etc., etc. If you go to the link that Teen Vogue supplies for Black Power Naps, this is the description that you are going to find on the Black Power Naps website, okay? Here's the quote from that website. Quote, Black Power Naps is a sculptural installation, vibrational device, and curatorial initiative that reclaims laziness and idleness as power. Departing from historical records that show that deliberate fragmentation of restorative sleep patterns were used to subjugate and extract labor from enslaved people, we have realized that this extraction has not stopped, it has only morphed. A state of constant fatigue is still used to break our will. This sleep gap shows that there are front lines in our bedrooms as well as on the streets. Deficit of sleep and lack of free time for some is the building block of the free world. After learning who benefits most from restful sleep and downtime, we are creating interactive surfaces for a playful approach to investigate and practice deliberate, energetic repair. Unquote. And then Teen Vogue, actually going back to Teen Vogue, they say that, well, sleeplessness causes all sorts of health problems. It raises the levels of cortisol in your body, which could lead to things like early death. And so, obviously, this is just another sign of white supremacy, institutional racism, and something else that must be addressed in order for utopia to finally make its way into our streets, into our cities, and we can all live happily ever after like all of the inhabitants of Chopistani did. Remember Chopistani? It was Chad, and then it was Chop. And I referred to it lovingly as Chopistani because people were killing each other, terrorizing each other, and looting like any third world country that had Stani in its name. Not to be offensive to third world countries. They're trying, I know that. But anyway, that is where we are. That is where we are. Sleep is now racist. And now, this sleeplessness, because of its quote-unquote history, it becomes an attack on humanity itself. So, Fanny Sosa, as quoted in Teen Vogue, says this, quote, we are having to go out in the streets during the pandemic, expanding our energy in really huge amounts in order to ask for reparations and rest and energy. You are putting your body on the line to reclaim it. That creates a lot of burnout. We have people who are 20, 21, they are burnt out. They need time off. They need not only to sleep, but to know their people are going to be okay, to know they're going to be okay, to know they can take a break. unquote. The solution. So, I just have to pause here for a second. So, people are burnt out now from revolting. It's like, hello, you revolted. You thought that you had good reasons to revolt. Well, then revolt. Don't whine and cry about the late hours that you have to spend out on the streets, toppling down statues, burning black businesses, attacking police officers, killing young mothers in Missouri because she dared to use a quote-unquote racial slur like all lives matter. Don't complain about the long hours. After you've started this revolution, what did you think was going to happen? That you just had to march in the streets for a couple of weeks? 1, 2, 3 weeks at most? And then everything was just going to roll over and change? You didn't think that there was going to be any pushback? Now, granted, and this actually makes it even worse, the pushback has been minuscule. At least. At the most, I mean. This pushback has been minuscule. They have gotten the mob, Black Lives Matter, Antifa, all of these incarnations of the left, all the different heads of the leftist hydra, they've been getting what they've wanted. They have been. Statues are being taken down now by city councils. Rhode Island officially changed its name, the name of the state, to get rid of the word plantation in its name. No one even knew. Okay, that Rhode Island was officially called Rhode Island, Rhode Island Providence and Plantation Colony, or Plantation State. No one even knew that the word plantation was in the official name of Rhode Island. But doesn't matter, we're going to change it. The Pentagon has even said, well, we could change the names of these 10 military posts and bases that are named after Confederate generals. It's about time that we had that sort of conversation. 2,000 people can demand that a professor in New York City be fired because she nodded off to sleep during a Zoom meeting that talked about anti-racism. The Treasury Department is still hiring people to talk about systematic racism and white privilege, etc., etc. You're being allowed to create autonomous zones in Seattle, in Portland. They tried it in Asheville, North Carolina, I believe, and I know in Chicago, Illinois. So in every instance, you are actually getting your way. The momentum is with you. No one is defending. Hardly anyone is really putting up a real fight to preserve and protect Western civilization. And you still say that you're getting burnt out? You should have even more energy because you should be saying, look at all the progress that we've been making. Saying that you are burnt out when your movement, which is only not even 2 months old, saying that people are still getting burnt out, 2021, people who are in the prime of their life, people who have more energy than a hamster on a Monster drink, to say that you're being burnt out, that makes you sound incredibly whiny. But again, there's a logic to the madness because it makes them, again, look like the victim. And in today's society, you get power by making yourself appear to be the victim. So that's that little detour. Now the solution, of course, is reparations. We need sleep reparations, not just financial reparations, but actually, honest to God, sleep reparations. The Black Power Naps website says, quote, reparation must come from the institution under many shapes, one of them being the redistribution of rest, relaxation, and downtime. How do you redistribute rest, relaxation, and downtime? How do you redistribute that? Does that mean that the favored people, the people who are racially and politically Black, Hispanic, part of the LGBTQIA plus movement, Asian, American Indian, meaning that they are that way, in case of Black, Hispanic, Asian, American Indian people, that they are those things ethnically, but they also think in lockstep with the left? Does that mean that they're going to have to get longer vacation times and white co-workers or white people are going to have to be herded in to do their job or to do double or triple duty while they're on vacation and not be paid compensation for that, because that would just be an example of white privilege, which would exasperate. I'll get that word here in a second. The wealth gap between white Americans and black Americans that we hear talked about as well. Is that going to have to be a solution? I mean, it would be interesting to know exactly what the redistribution of rest, relaxation, and downtimes actually means, how that would actually play out in society. Now, interestingly enough, this all comes at the tail end of people reiterating that ideas and concepts like punctuality, industriousness, the Protestant work ethic, as it's being called, that these are all forms of white supremacy. You can't expect, it is now being argued by professionals, okay? Not just on some blogs on the fringe of the internet, but it is now being talked about in the mainstream how you can't expect minority people to be objective. You can't expect them to be industrious. You can't expect them to be punctual for meetings, for interviews, for dates, whatever. Because by doing that, you are actually exercising white supremacy over them. Meaning, of course, that they're naturally lazy, shiftless, uninspired people. I mean, that's the assumption that we're going with. And that's the assumption that numerous people have made on Twitter, on Instagram, Facebook, on the blogs, and in the essays that, of course, came out because of this, etc., etc. So they want to be paid. If reparations have to be paid, what they're saying is that reparations have to be paid so that they can be lazy. That's really what the gist of the argument comes down to. Power is now in being lazy. Power means not being able to work, which I have to admit makes sense from an ideological point of view. If you can say, if you don't have to work because other people will work for you, again without compensation, simply because of your color, your orientation, or whatever, if you can say that, then you do have power. You do have power. That's the whole point of this. Power. We're at the top of the food chain. We are at the top of society because we don't have to work for our daily bread. We don't have to work to provide for our families. That will be done for us. Or we'll be taken care of because other people will actually foot the bill for us, whether that's new taxes for reparations, government money, etc., etc. Now, just a few things to kind of shoot some holes into this to the best of my ability. Are black Americans getting less sleep than white Americans? I would have no idea off the top of my head. However, I can believe it simply because, again, of the problems that are in the black community. It is harder to get a good night's sleep when you're worried about money. And you worry about money a lot more when you are actually in poverty. And unfortunately, black Americans are the demographic in America which suffers the most poverty. 22% of black Americans live in poverty. The reason for that, however, might be because 78%, or excuse me, the vast majority of black children here in America don't live in a two-parent household. They live, so many of them, without their fathers. Some of them live without their mothers, too. Their grandparents are raising them, or an aunt and an uncle are raising them because they come from broken homes. And sociology has shown time and time again the connection between growing up and being raised in a two-parent home and then having some sort of success later on in your life when you are an adult and you go out into the wide world. If you're raised with your mom and your dad, you have a much better chance of getting a job, of holding a job, of finishing high school, of completing college, which then allows you to get better and better jobs, which will then allow you to have your own place, whether that's an apartment or whether that's a house, to have a car, to have some things in life. So you're not just scrambling to make money, go home, go to sleep, go back out and make money of some kind again. Okay, that might be a reason why black Americans aren't getting enough sleep, or why they get less sleep than white Americans and their white counterparts. But then again, we can't point that out. We can't suggest that, because now it's also being said that the nuclear family is actually a symbol of white supremacy. We might have to do a whole video about that, because that got my dander up, as you might imagine. So that's the first thing. The second thing is the irony in it, because what allows for downtime? What allows for rest and relaxation? Industry. The very thing that people now say is a sign of white supremacy is actually what allows us to have rest and relaxation. It allows us to on two levels. We can genuinely enjoy our rest and relaxation knowing in our own minds that we've done a full days or a full weeks or a full month worth of work. And so we have earned that free time. We have earned that relaxation. Also, when you are industrious and you're good at your job and you hustle, you work overtime, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, that allows you to have the funds that are then needed to pay for your rest and relaxation, whether that's just taking a personal day from work so that, okay, you might lose a little money because you're not earning anything, but it's not going to hurt you because you've worked hard, you saved for a little bit, or whether that's taking a vacation for yourself, for your family, etc., etc. That's the second thing. Now, the third thing, however, these last 2 points really get, I think, to the heart of the matter, the metaphysical problems with this idea. This idea that you have to reclaim laziness as a source of power, that strikes at the heart of human dignity. Man is meant to work. That is the unfortunate reality that we live in, okay? People who do not work are very, very unhappy. Even the rich, those horrible, horrible, hated rich people, have to work in some sort of capacity for their money. Okay, I would say a lot of them. Okay, there are some people out there who I'm sure have inherited their millions or billions and they haven't done a lick of work in their life, but I would be willing to bet that they are the rule that they are the examples that prove the rule. They are the exceptions that prove the rule. I would be willing to go that route. I'd be willing to think that, okay? Now, this work doesn't mean you have to have a 9-to-5 job or anything like that. I mean, work can be anything. Making these videos is work. You've got to find stories, make outlines or scripts, record it, edit it, post it on YouTube, etc. Learning is work. You have to apply yourself to that. Learning a hobby is work. And then actually using that hobby is work. Whether that's wood carving, playing a musical instrument, it's all work. It's all work, okay? But in work is one of the places where we actually find our dignity, because we are improving upon ourselves. We are standing flat-footed on the ground, sure-footed on the ground. That is what we are doing. And then we are saying that we have improved ourselves to the best of our ability. We've taken what natural talents, resources, and inclinations that we have, and we have improved upon them. We've improved our minds, we've improved our bodies, we've improved our community, our family, etc., etc. That is why work gives man dignity, which then leads into the fourth point, that this idea that laziness, being shiftless, for lack of a better word, is actually a reclaiming of power, it is anti-freedom. Because not only are you saying that you are now dependent upon someone else for the food that you eat, the roof that you have above your head, the fuel that it takes to power your car, maybe the car itself, you are dependent upon all of these things on someone else. All of these things now that you want, that you claim you have a right to, that you sometimes that you need, like food and shelter, they come from someone else. And if someone can give something to you, that same person can take it away from you. He who has the power to give has the power to take away. Okay, that's just a law of history, of nature, and that's just reality, unfortunately. But also, it attacks freedom because, to build up just a little bit more, the point I made just a second ago about improving ourselves. If we don't improve ourselves, then we're basically just lumps of clay. If we do not have the ambition and the drive to become just the best that we can be, whether it's in a particular field, a particular hobby, or just in life in general. I want to learn as much as I can. I want to try as many different things, legitimately, that I can. I want to do all of these things, improve my mind, improve my body, improve my soul. All of these things make us not just better people, but they make us actually more human. If I can quote the 20th century Thomistic philosopher Jacques Maritain again, man is the only creature who has to work to achieve his nature. We work on it by working, by improving ourselves, our virtues, our industry, etc. We become more human. That's what he was saying. So when you just say, hey, I want someone else to take care of me so I can just bum around because that's power, not just because I want more free time so I can improve myself, so that I can then improve my circumstances on my own, that enslaves you twice, makes you dependent on other people, and then it wastes whatever potential that you have. And everyone has potential, gang. Every single one of us has potential for great things. It wastes that potential just by staying in bed all day or lazing around, looking at our phones or staying on Netflix all day. And that is the real evil of this idea that laziness is power and that we need reparations and a redistribution of sleep. That is story number 2.